The worst time to grab your mouse is when air traffic control is already talking to you. Imagine you're climbing out, the aircraft is moving fast. The controller gives you a new radio frequency, a new instruction, and now you have to click around a tiny virtual cockpit without messing it up. That is where these two panels start to make sense. This is the WINCTRL RMP and the WINCTRL TCAS, two physical Airbus-style panels for flight simulation. One handles your radios, and the other handles your transponder and TCAS. And even if you're not deep into flight sims, here's the simple version. On VATSIM and PilotEdge, real people control virtual air traffic. They talk to you like real controllers. They give instructions, they hand you off to different frequencies. They assign squawk codes. And when the workload goes up, using a mouse can feel slow and clumsy. So the real question is simple. Are these just cool desk accessories, or do they actually make your simulator cockpit better? Let's open the boxes and find out. The WINCTRL 32 RMP and 32 TCAS come packed cleanly in foam. Packaging is similar for both. Each box includes the panel itself, a USB cable, an accessories kit, a tool, and nano double-sided adhesive dots. Everything is packed neatly and easy to sort through. You get the panels, the cables, and accessories you need to get started. But here's the detail most people miss. It goes beyond convenience, and real benefit is keeping your focus where it belongs. In a busy departure, you're flying the aircraft, following a route, listening to ATC, watching traffic, checking your instruments, and staying ahead of the airplane. Now add that one more task. You need to zoom into a virtual cockpit, hover your mouse over the correct spot, use the scroll wheel to change frequencies, and hope your mouse doesn't slip. That is exactly the moment where physical controls matter. The RMP is the radio management panel. In plain English, this is what you use to tune and swap frequencies. The first thing that stands out is the size. These are true-to-scale, one-to-one Airbus-style modules. They do not feel like tiny toy panels. They look like they belong in a proper Airbus setup. The body is made from high-strength engineering-grade ABS. It is not metal, but it feels solid, with the kind of fit and finish that has become typical of WINCTRL hardware. The RMP has a realistic locking toggle switch with a heavy 24-degree throw. When you move it, you feel it. That resistance gives your hand a clear sense of where the switch is set. The dual concentric encoders also feel good. You get that click and push feel when tuning frequencies, which is much better than dragging your mouse over a virtual knob. I only wish there was some sort of acceleration when adjusting decimal points, but more on that later. And then there's the guarded nav button. The guard flips a full 180 degrees. And this is one of my favorite details. It looks cool, but it also has a real purpose. It helps to stop accidental inputs. That might sound small until you're on a live online flight and one wrong click can break your flow. But the RMP is only half of the setup. Right beside it is the WINCTRL 32 TCAS. This panel handles your transponder and traffic alert settings. In simple terms, it tells the online ATC network who you are, what the squawk code you're using, and what traffic mode you're in. The TCAS panel has a 4-stage rotary switch from a standby all the way to TA array. It also has 10 tactile buttons for entering squawk codes. And here is the warning. Rotate the knobs only. Do not push them. Do not pull them. These knobs are strictly rotational. If you force them the wrong way, you can damage the internal encoder. Treat them like aircraft controls, and they will feel great. The segment displays have that orange-yellow Airbus-style glow, and both panels work with SimAppPro for backlight control. Now comes the part that makes or breaks the sim hardware, this setup. And this was mostly painless. Plug each panel with a USB-C, open SimAppPro, and the panels are recognized. For the major Airbus aircraft, the mapping is already there. That includes Fenix, iniBuilds, and FlyByWire A32NX. No need to hunt down drivers, spend an hour configuring settings, or figure out why a button isn't responding. But I did notice one important detail with RMP in the Fenix A320. When I moved the dials or toggled the switch, it did not directly move the matching controls inside the Fenix virtual cockpit. The actual radio change happened when I switched the active frequency. So functionally, it worked for the part that mattered, but visually, the virtual cockpit did not mirror every detail movement in real time during my test. That feels like something that could improve with the future software or profile updates, but as tested, that was the behavior. Now, there's one more important limitation. These are Airbus-style panels. If you mostly fly a Cessna, Diamond, or any other general aviation aircraft, basic VHF tuning may still work, but the layout is not built for these types of cockpits. And that is fine. These panels are designed for the Airbus flow. The knob placement, button layout, and overall feel make the most sense in Airbus-style setup. Now let's talk mounting. Both panels come with an angled base, so you can place them directly on your desk, and that is probably the easiest way to start. They also work with WINCTRL desk mount expansion system, sold separately if you want a cleaner rack-style setup. And if you're building a home cockpit, they support standard cockpit frame mounting points so they can bolt into common profile bar or modular frames. In my setup, I use standard 2020 aluminum profiles to fit them within the desk mount expansion system while waiting for the dedicated coupling brackets that WINCTRL announced earlier to become available. And that gives you a simple upgrade plan. So desk today, rack later, full cockpit frame if you go deeper. But do you need both? If you're building an Airbus-style setup, I actually recommend both. The RMP handles your radio flow. The TCAS handles your transponder and traffic modes. Together, they make the cockpit feel more complete, especially if you're flying online with real human controllers. But if you're only starting with one, I would go with RMP first. That is the panel that will touch on almost every flight. You're changing frequencies, swapping active and standby radios, listening to ATC, and staying connected to the network. That is constant work. The TCAS panel adds another layer of realism, especially during the busy VATSIM events or PilotEdge flights, but the RMP is the one that changes your workflow immediately. So my recommendation is very simple. Get both if you want the full Airbus-style experience. But if you're buying one first, start with RMP and then add TCAS later. And that is where these panels make the most sense. They're not trying to replace your whole simulator setup. They solve two very specific problems: radio control and transponder control. These sound like small things, but they happen at the exact moments where your attention is already split. Think about it: departure, approach, frequency changes, squawk codes, traffic calls, and control instructions. That is when the mouse feels the worst. And physical panel feels right. Both panels are linked in the description. Also, join one of my live streams if you want to see hardware like this in action during real gate-to-gate online flights where the radio is very busy, the controllers are calling, and you have to stay ahead of the airplane. Subscribe for more real-world pilot reviews, flight simulation hardware tests, and realistic online flights. And as always, fly smart, fly safe, and keep chasing the horizons.